Welcome everyone. I'd like to welcome you to Clover Gardens February board meeting. 6:32. Can you give me the role and mission, please?
Goal of the board, we are trusted to steer with the current school, stay focused on the vision for the future school, no trust, no unity, no progress. Mission of Clover Garden School will foster community, generate enthusiasm, challenge students academically, and produce successful citizens.
So everyone's got it in front of you. Everyone's had a chance to review the agenda. Any questions, comments? Who would like to make a motion to approve the agenda? Second. Ms. Foster's the first one, sorry. Second. All in favor? Also, you have the January 11th and January 21st. We had two meetings. You got the minutes for both meetings. So we're going to start January 11th. Comments and changes made. Would you like to make a motion to approve the January 11th minutes? Second. All right. All in favor? January 11th minutes are approved. January 21st meeting minutes. Motion to approve January 21st meeting. Saunders, second. Foster, all in favor? 21st meeting minutes. So tonight we have three public comments that were written, submitted to Clover Garden by 6 p.m. today. So I'll read all three comments, but before I do that, I'll read this procedure before I read public comments. Public comment is to allow our Clover Garden School Board of Directors to hear directly from our community on matters of the school. Other comments limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Speakers are welcome to offer comments, criticism directed at substantial ideas, actions, or procedures of the board and individual board members in interest of maintaining civility and decorum. However, board members will not tolerate or allow personal attacks and insults directed at the board, individual board members, staff, or members of the board. Speakers, including students, may discuss issues and matters of general concern. Should refrain from discussing confidential student information. Concerns related to confidential student matters may be addressed through contact with the school director / principal, grievance policy, or equipment policy. So our first one, the subject is making masks optional. That's Patterson submitted this one. Says, I am writing once again to ask that you consider making math optional for our children. I noticed the latest measures that were sent out that the number of positive cases among students have risen, as it is almost everywhere else with Omicron variants. If masks work so well, then why? The risks versus benefits of the mask just doesn't seem to warrant the wearing of the face. The detrimental impacts of face coverings can have on children when it comes to communication and learning far outweigh the chance of catching the virus with like symptoms. Studies show that covering a speaker's lips can have a direct impact on a child's ability to learn. It is also unrealistic to think that even if masks were very effective, that young children would actually be able to wear them correctly and refrain from messing with them constantly, which requires them to touch their face and mouth. Our children are at church 2 to 3 days a week. Children from all over the country, and we got very few problems. I respectfully ask once again that you allow us as parents to make the decision for the child. We understand that some parents may feel it's best for the child to wear a mask, but what about the parents that do not think this is best? have had to adhere to these guidelines for nearly a year. Discussion as to other options. All right, that was the first comment. The second comment, also Justin and Mandy Patterson. Second comment, please. We have seen this week's metrics on COVID and are encouraged. With only 3 students testing positive in the entire school, that's 0.01% positive in elementary and high school, and 0.0% positive in middle school. It's not enough to at least make masks optional, and it appears that the school has set an unattainable goal. We would ask again, as we have in the past, no clear answer. What is the school looking for to make masks at least optional? It is also very concerning that perfectly healthy students who are wearing masks, but these parents have chosen to not vaccinate them, are being sent home for 10 days of quarantine with a classmate. Why aren't the vaccinated students being made quarantine? It has been proven to be vaccinated can still contract and spread COVID. However, if masks were effective from the start, why are any children being sent home who are not sick? At this point, it is clear that the risks to our children's development, education, and mental health far outweigh the benefits of masks and quarantine. In all other areas of our children's lives, are they required to wear masks? They attend sporting events at other schools and colleges, attend church, participate in community schools, go to eat restaurants, and attend social events, among other things. In no other area of their lives are they required to wear masks except for the school where they spend the vast majority of their time underneath. Science shows COVID is never going away, as it will come like any other respiratory virus. Clever guards should be looking how to move beyond this. Okay, that's the end of the second comment. The third and last comment is from Ian Harris, also mask policy. Dear members of the board and administrative staff, as a former board member, I appreciate the work you have all done navigating the school through the challenges of COVID over the last 2 years. I wish I were still a board member. However, I found myself needing to focus more on my family at the time. The school deserved more than what I could offer, and unfortunately, it seemed to have found that current board member. I am certain the last 2 years have resulted in countless hours of thought and discussion on COVID alone, the best interest of the students, staff, and parents. These decisions were clearly made based on guidance from the CDC and based on knowledge available at the time as COVID-19 progressed. Today, however, I would like to address the mask policy, as I firmly believe masks are futile in the prevention of the transmission of COVID. While I am not a doctor, I have been on the front lines of the fight as an EMT. One thing I've struggled with, given my knowledge of disease transmission, is how the masks in use by the vast majority of people are ineffective, as they are not designed to prevent the spread of disease. Even medical masks are insufficient, and I personally know the former head of emergency department of ARMC, Home Health, who would agree with that statement. One of the most astonishing aspects of COVID is how there is little rhyme or reason to the transmissibility. Incidental exposure seems to guarantee the transmission of the disease, yet full-on exposures frequently fail to pass on the disease. Ohio managed to test 360 deer between January and February and March of 2021. They discovered 3 different strains of the virus among 129 of those deer. This alone demonstrates how COVID-19 is unique in transmissibility, as wild animals are isolated and separated far greater than what the CDC recommends. Analyzing COVID numbers between states like Florida and California also supports the fallacy in mask use. They both have contrasting approaches in combating COVID, yet the numbers are practically identical. I have said for a while that we can run from this disease, but this became evident early on when someone I knew tried to COVID despite a consistent mask use. This person even wore a mask while riding a moving car and fear of the disease. What is truly remarkable is that this is an extremely treatable disease. The This is being proven as more people interact successfully with COVID and COVID. Ultimately, it seems ludicrous to continue to require masks, given the above information, as well as more in-depth studies. I do find it understandable for some parents to believe it is in their child's best interest to wear a mask, and that is their opinion. On the contrary, I take issue with those same parents, or anyone else dictating policies. Given all this information, I implore the board to remove the mask mandate, make it optional for all students and staff. Please let the parents decide what's best for the child. I would be first to encourage mask use if it worked, however, increasing mask use. Initially, the word N95 mask in public was one of the people spraying down groceries with alcohol today. We treasure Clover Garden and the environment of the school. We consider removing our children to homeschool to stay with CGS due to appreciation for the school and the fact that we have our own board making decisions for CGS only. Not one board governs 60 schools, and we are proud to be part of the school. Please feel free to contact me for detail. Again, and appreciate the work you have done and all three public comments. Special guests. So we have a special guest. On to fine.
Thank you. Give a copy of the January 2020.
Any questions or comments? Or we would like to make a motion to approve January 2022. Second. Tomorrow. All in favor? All right, academics and space. So with the intersport winner, second place with the sixth grade was 97.3. The subject classes will be presented with a certificate, special class for admin. The enrollment updates that 485 students on the wait list, and the lottery takes place on March 7th. In college news, Clover Garden will have 4 students graduating in May who have earned their associate's degree from Alamance Community College. CGS has 2 seniors who are applying to the CSEP program, which is a program where they work with ACC and UNC, and if they've maintained a frequency grade point average, they're guaranteed admission to UNC. There are several programs like this with other colleges, so please students choose UNC. There was an information meeting rising juniors in campus to the city, and currently there are 22 rising juniors that are eligible for it. And student council meetings, the public government student council just finished their observance of national school choice, and many of these activities are posted around the school. Their bulletin boards, chain links, chains that supports Clover Garden School students in grades K-5 receive a goodie bag with special treats, including a thank you note for families. Most of the high school students have brownies and bottled water on Fridays. During the month of April, the student council will be collecting new board books to donate to families having served in the NICU at Home Hospital in Greensboro. They are partnering with April Book Fair, and we'll have a display and play students and families
really good learning clubs. And this song to help promote this event and also posted it on Facebook as well. A new program just starting at Clover Garden is the Big Brother Big Sister Mentoring Program. This program is designed to help Clover Garden students develop positive coping skills which will help them be successful socially, academically, and personally. Our students will pair with selected upperclassmen who will work to create nurturing and supportive relationships and provide positive reinforcement about age and their development. The current sponsors for the program is Mr. Graham, our security officer, and Ms. Burridge, our social worker. Clover Garden was received National Sports Week. Was presented National School Choice Week presented Clover Garden School 2022 School Choice Leadership Award. Clover Garden School was recognized for its tireless dedication to providing all children with access to effective education options and for participation in National School Choice Week. The certificate was awarded by Andrew Campanella, the president of National School Choice Week. For athletics, senior night was held Tuesday, January 8th, and student athletes and dancers and parents were honored in the varsity girls and the boys game. Marching band, full guard, and pet band members were honored during halftime. Another great moment for Clover Garden athletics was one of the seniors, Jacqueline Fawcett, happened when she scored 2,000 points. Her 2,000 point. There was a small celebration after a shot, and after the game, Jacqueline had to thank the family. Clover Garden received a certificate for rejection-free recognition. The North Carolina High School Athletic Association and Farm Bureau Insurance recognized Clover Garden School for displaying exemplary sportsmanship and athletics by receiving no rejections during the 2020-2021 school year. The certificate states that such positive behavior in the training is commendable. And currently, the training sports have started the audition for the tryouts for that.
All business. First one on the list, all business, updates.
All right. In your packet, you will see our metrics updates. We did make a couple of slight changes in our weekly updates that we've been sending out to families. We did start, including a percentage of folks that were out of quarantine, just for us to have that information. And we did it by schools. We started that last month, so it's pretty great information on Sundays. Check that out and just kind of see how we're doing as a school. I'm pleasantly happy to announce that our numbers have significantly dropped, which is wonderful. I think it was 0 last week for staff, so we are really well on our way. And I believe one of our substitutes called us last week and said, "Hey, I'm not subbing for anybody tomorrow. Are you sure you don't need me?" And that's first all year long. So I think we have her come in anyway, just in case. So trying to be prepared. And so it's been phenomenal having our kids back in the field, and again, those cases decreased. That is not where we were a month ago. So that has been a huge improvement across the board there. So did want to speak a little bit to our community numbers. So that's what's in your packet. So this is for the dashboard, the Department of Health and Human Services. So if you look, the positivity rate a couple of weeks ago was well at 30%, 31%. So we have dropped down a little bit, about 25.9. Unfortunately, that still does put us in a category of high transmission. And of course, we have seen this in our building, but our kids have done a great job of wearing their masks and staying protected. And teachers have really doubled down on cleaning. And we've even put additional measures in place with not letting kids congregate in large spaces, such as arrival and dismissal. We used to use the gym and the cafeteria. In the past few weeks, we've had changed that, and they have been dismissing from classrooms and going straight into classrooms. So we do think that is something bit as well. So we are continuing to watch these numbers. Take a look. This one a week ago when we pulled it in February between Alamance County and Guilford, and then taking a look at it just recently as of yesterday. So the top 3 counties that we serve, they have decreased, which is fantastic. But we are still in that category of high transmission. So that is something that we are continuing to watch and be mindful of. And then on the next couple pages is just a different breakdown to show you that we see that we've been going back and forth about it, and trying to put some mitigations in place. And we feel confident in saying that we have reached the peak of Omicron, and now we're broke down on the slope. So that's fantastic. There is another variant that they are watching that has been, kind of shared about across, different networks. But for the most part, we are excited to be on the downward slope of this one. So great news there. There was an update. So there was like a last minute call. So we usually have a monthly Department of Public Instruction and then Department of Health and Human Services. It's like a combined meeting that they do every month. Well, we had a called meeting. It was, let us know in the morning, hey, it's 2 o'clock this afternoon. So we had one of those on Thursday. We kind of had an inkling of some good things that were coming, and so those are coming into fruition. So there is a new version of the Strong Schools Toolkit. So you guys know that we have, stuck to this document. This is what we have used in our handbook throughout this whole pandemic. So they did make some changes, and these go into effect on Monday. So there's some updates in there, and a lot of it has to do with close contact tracing. So that's a huge part of what we've been kind of watching, and I think where we've gotten some folks have been frustrated with close contact tracing. And basically what they've done is, based on the incubation time of the latest variant, by the time, this is in Heather's summary here, but by the time that you realize someone was sick, the incubation period had already passed. And so they were saying, okay, well, how valid and important is, this close contact tracing, okay? And so they have removed that requirement of, or it's a recommendation of quarantining folks that are close contacts. So that was a lot of back and forth that I think CDC and Department of Health and Human Services were kind of trying to work close and hand in hand together on that one. So now they're saying, hey, if they're a positive case, yes, quarantine them. If they're not, if they're a close contact, don't quarantine them. And they're saying regardless of exposure. So wherever they got it from, not to quarantine those kids unless, of course, they start showing symptoms and then they can take a test and those kind of things. But so that's been the biggest change that they passed. There was over 400 people on that call. So you knew at the last minute something was going down. We needed to be on that call. And so that was a huge, I think, benefit for our community in that we still want to be very mindful and be watchful and observe kids if they start exhibiting symptoms, but that they do not see the importance of having to quarantine them. And a lot of this came in a lot of, vaccinated versus not vaccinated, right? So in the toolkit, that was the caveat. Either you had a mask on or consistently and accurately, or you were vaccinated. And those were your exemptions to be, to not having to close contact or quarantine for being in close contact. So now they've kind of done away with that. So that I think is a positive thing. I think it's going to keep more kids at school. So I'm very excited about that. Our health and wellness supposed to kind of do like a layered approach to that. So I'll kind of talk to that in just a second. But very excited about that. It means more kids in the building. And then of course it means watching our kids closely. And so that was a big part. That was kind of the biggest piece of this update. And so they gave us a call last Thursday and they said, okay, we're going to give you a week to kind of make changes and make sure your staff is aware, your families, and decided you need to update your policy. And so those are things that I'm going to talk to you about in just a minute from our health and wellness, because we want to kind of update our policy a little bit based on this new information. So I think it was a very positive meeting. I think it was like a, okay, all right, we're in progress. So very excited about that. So that kind of segues into my next piece here. So just you've got this right before the meeting. So if you didn't get it, we can make sure you get a copy of this. But so health and wellness continues to meet. We continue to meet monthly, sometimes more than that, depending on what the numbers look like and what we're trying to accomplish. So Obviously, the goal is to keep our kids safe. That has been and will always be our priority. So, some things that we would like to recommend, and before I do that, I do want to show you some other information. We did collect vaccinated information. Some of this in our meeting, we were trying to talk about, okay, so what's the immunity for the school? You know, if you know, the CDC, Department of Health and Human Services still recommend masking. That is still a big piece in vaccination. So they're continuing to stand by their recommendations on both of those, okay? So we started talking about, okay, so what does that look like for our individual school community? And those right there are the percentages of kids that we have that are vaccinated. Now, granted, there's a variable there. If we don't have their card, we don't have their information, then they're not included in this, okay? So this right here is a percentage of kids that are vaccinated in elementary, middle, high school, and staff. Those numbers there. And then also said, okay, what about the kids that are tested positive, right? So they've got some type of immunity there too. And so there's the percentages of elementary, middle, and high school kids that have tested positive for COVID-19. And then the next percentage is, all right, so I'm sorry for that backwards, guys, I apologize. The number that you see first there is the number of vaccinated students that have tested positive. I apologize. That number is the vaccinated kids, that percentage of them that have tested positive. That's been a big talking point amongst a lot of people. Well, they're vaccinated, so they still get sick, but those numbers are still relatively low for us. Then I apologize. That next number is the percentage of kids that have had COVID previously. So since we were able to start tracking, you know, this school year, you know, how many kids have had COVID. So either they've had the vaccination or they've actually had the virus itself. So just to give you some information there, some of our health and wellness folks wanted us to collect that and we want to share that with you, just to give you a pulse check of kind of where we're at in our community of kids. And then on that second page there, is currently as of today. And so, Ms. Baker, I appreciate you getting this information together for us tonight, but this is currently as of right now, these are schools that do require masks. So this is an example of some of the schools around us, both charter and LEAs, who are still schooling to use a mask. We do know the BSS has another board meeting at the end of this month. So those are things that we always try to watch and see what everybody else is doing as well.
But this is just representative of local schools, which are still adhering to the mask.
Mhm.
Okay, just the local schools.
That's right. So what we are asking, so this is a lot of information. We are still collecting data. So we are, I'm going to go through our recommendations and kind of tell you some thought process behind that. So the first bullet there, so we would like to discontinue close contact tracing. However, we would like to have an exception in there. We would like to continue quarantining households. So if there is a positive within the household, we would like to continue to quarantine those kids. So if mom or dad or whomever tests positive, we would like to quarantine the family, okay? That is different than, like I said, the Strong Schools Toolkit says you don't have to do that. Clever Garden would like to do that, their health and wellness, as an added layer of protection. So the only time we would do close contact tracing, of course, would be in the household, and then potentially if we get to see where a cluster is developing. So we've only had, like I told you last time, we had 2 clusters. Maybe there was a third one we were watching. So we've done really good with preventing clusters from taking place. So clusters is 5 or more positive cases that are coming from a specific situation. So we would like to just kind of monitor that. So if it became where a classroom is, for example, there's 5, you know, we're getting close, we're getting 3 kids are positive, and we're going to hit number 4, we want to do some close contact tracing because we're trying to prevent the entire class from going out. So those are the only 2 exceptions we would like you to consider for us to continue close contact tracing. But other than that, the only child that would be sent home would be a positive case. So that's one of the recommendations that we're asking for. The second one is we would like to reduce the quarantine time. So this is something that we have seen updated in the Strong Schools Toolkit. We have, you know, we're slow and steady wins the race. We have always operated, you know, with caution. But we feel comfortable, you know, looking at the numbers, and hopefully that continues the pattern of low numbers. We would like to decrease our quarantine time from 10 days to 5. There is a piece too that, if someone is positive and they're sick, they can come back after 5 days. But there's a big push where they must keep mask on for the next 5 days. So if we stay mask required, nobody would be singled out if they were sick, But of course, we're gonna ask you not to come to school if you were symptomatic, okay, just for safety of everybody else. But we would like to change that from 10 days to 5 days based on the new information of the incubation time of the newest variant. The next is, again, what I mentioned before, we would like to have at least another month of mandated face masks. We are currently working on a de-escalation of masking strategy. So looking at some numbers and some percentages and looking at the community. And we would like to present that next month in our board meeting on what that may look like. But currently, because we are still sitting in high transmission for all 3 counties that we majority serve, that is going to be our recommendation for this month. Is to continue. And then last but not least, this is I would like to move forward with, but we have not shared this with our families, with kids or anything like that, but Health and Wellness feels comfortable in the information that we have and parameters we could put into place to offer prom this school year. We feel like it is time. We are trying our hardest to get back to normal. We want the kids to have an opportunity to have a prom. I know our kids have had in the past 2 years off-site proms kind of on their own. This will still be a school-sponsored prom. We're looking at some potential dates in April, but we wanted to work with them first before we go any further with that. We've had some schools that have said, yes, let's do a prom. Of course, some schools, no, let's don't do a prom, but we feel confident. We already have a huge prom committee that I met with them real quickly last week to say, hey, this committee might be non-existent, but can you just throw some ideas at me so I can pitch it to the board? And they were like rolling off stuff and how we're going to keep, things outside. And that way we got fresh air. And so it was a really fun experience to kind of just chit chat with them and look at potential opportunities for our kids. So that was something we know that it's February and we just want to make that decision and move forward, whether that be yay or nay. And that way we can let our kids know and our families know that we can get going and put together something pretty special. So those are our recommendations. Are there any questions about any of the information presented to you for health and wellness update?
Can you explain the first one, discontinued close contact except for household?
Yes. So, and this is coming from health and wellness and our school nurse. Try not to take away so many pieces at one time. So right now, our policy is if someone gets sick in the house and they are positive for COVID, then you're quarantined as well. So if it's your parent, if it's your sibling, whomever lives in that house is quarantined. The new information says it doesn't matter where you got it from. You can, you don't have to be excluded. You don't have to be quarantined unless you are the positive person. So, and I think our argument, I guess, for this one would be, we have a lot of siblings, we have a lot of families. Those are some things that we have seen mom and dad or whomever get sick, and then it kind of goes along and it kind of hits the rest of the family. So not always, sometimes there are different extenuating circumstances where it doesn't, but just another layer of protection for the school. If they are sick, and of course not the whole 10 days this time, it would be 5. So that is the recommendation, just to make sure that if there's somebody sick, people are able to do a good job of trying to stay separate within their own house. But we're just trying to be realistic on that and how quickly that virus spreads. So that is why we would like to do away with contact tracing. So like in classrooms where we're doing like, okay, 6 feet this way, 6 feet this way, 6 feet this way. We're not doing any of that anymore. It would only be if somebody in my house is positive, then I've got to go home for 5 days, or if myself is positive, then I have to go home for 5 days.
So we would have to rely on the family member to
Yes.
report that
Yes.
positive among
Yes.
them.
And I will be truthful and transparent with you. There are some that do, and we greatly appreciate that. And then there are some that don't, and we don't find out until after the fact. Where we just can only work with what we have. Or what information is shared with us.
Questions? So, requesting 4 separate votes since last policy is mandatory.
Yeah, I would say at least the mask being separate, but it might make it easier if you just did them separately, or you can do them. We've done it in the past, we've done all the recommendations as one vote.
One thing about
Mask.
1, 2, and 4, like, being together. Pass, yeah, 4.
That's perfect.
Any other questions before we get to the vote? So, we've got 4 bullets here in front of you. The 1 through 4 is, everything except for that word. If you'd like to make a motion. Second. Foster. All in favor? All in favor? That is 3. That's the discontinued close contact. Quarantine policy, 10 days to 5 days, and then. Next one, the last thing we'll vote on. Here's the mandatory minutes. We'll have to make a motion for that. Foster, second. Lane. So who's all in favor of mandatory minutes? Foster, Lane. Who's not in favor of the mandatory last? Saunders, right, so. That still, that's just for this month, correct?
Yes, that till I'm not told it differently yet. I think it's still every month we have to. Okay. Yes, sir. Until the end of the school year, I apologize. That's right. Until the end.
I'm sorry, when would any change take effect?
I'm sorry.
Oh, when would any change take effect? Is
So-
it board meeting to board meeting and then the next day, or?
This doesn't go into effect until Monday,
Okay,
so ours would be when we come back from break.
okay.
Yeah. Well. Like the.
Yeah, I don't know how it's written. Yeah.
Technically, the masks and everything goes effect tomorrow, technically.
I don't think it's.
Yes, now the other stuff I was telling you about, the
Right.
post contact and all that stuff, well, the post contact piece is from the strong school toolkit, that's not effective until Monday. So we would still be post contact tracing and things like that, so we still have to do that for the rest of the week.
Until after break,
Until that
yeah.
change, right.
And hopefully after break, we will be.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, guys, I'm thinking out loud. Technically, that policy's gonna be okay. Y'all just approved for us to not do post contact, so. So, Mr. Hunt, I think it's tomorrow. Yeah, it would be tomorrow. I would have to get it out, to families and stuff like that tonight. And get teachers ready and, that would take some, I have to do this tonight to make sure they're ready for tomorrow. But I guess it could, officially start tomorrow.
I'm sure a lot of families.
You guys need transition, I'm telling you, Monday after break.
are-
So, but if you want to look on paper and technically you have voted on that tonight, it won't matter what the toolkit says, because you voted on the policy. So. The other piece. It just won't be approved yet. That's how we operate.
can I take my mask off? Just kidding. I'm just kidding. I had to lighten the air a little bit.
Ms. Barakin, can I just, and again, I realize the vote's been taken, but how comfortable is your staff going to feel? Have you gauged that at all as to how comfortable they're going to be in a classroom of students with no mask? Because again, and I'm coming at it from the educator's point of view and instead of a parent point of view, because I feel like that's why I'm on the board. So how are they going to feel when now all of a sudden they have a classroom of unmasked children? Is that going to affect their morale or the way they feel about what's going on in their individual classrooms? I'm concerned about that.
So I appreciate that, because just to be totally honest with you, transition is going to be a little bit majority. So did the survey that you asked me to do, and majority, it was about a. But there were some that I'm going to have a conversation with. I had a few that said they would not want to continue working. So I asked that we have some grace, because that's a huge change for us. So yes, goes with it tomorrow. However, understand the business into that.
You don't want
I've
to
got
lose
to have some
teachers over
very
it.
and understanding conversations with people to put some things into place, just to be completely honest with you. Just on some of the comments that I received this office from that survey. We were sitting at about 81% to about 18%, 14.6. So roughly 80-20, 80%
Which-
in favor of optional math
Okay,
and 20% not in favor. So
okay,
the 20% is who I'm asking I need to have
a little grace.
a special conversation with, and potentially HR, and figure out what. I'm sorry for the back and forth, I'm just trying to think of all of these. When you change a policy, it's pretty significant like this, that we need to make sure everybody's ready for that. So if we, yes, this policy is going to go into effect. If we were to wait, and we're getting ready to go on a break next week, and we come in that Monday, that would get everybody, I think, appropriate amount of time to transition, be ready for that, and how we're going to share that with kids, and that kind of thing, and give me in a sense time to.
And I think that's
Meetings.
a fair request, because if you keep the mask up until break, which is just one more week, correct?
That's 3 days.
Just 3 days, 3 days.
Yeah.
God.
2.5.
See, y'all gonna correct me on that today. And then hopefully they're out a week, and then hopefully what you're gonna see when you come back is hopefully these transmission rates are no longer gonna be in the red.
That's right.
And that's
Right.
gonna make everybody feel a bit more comfortable about the students who decide that they do not want to wear the mask, or the parents of the students who don't want the children wearing the mask. But I think, again, and I'm speaking for the teachers, I think that's the fair thing to do for them.
And I had a few comments that, now that you say that, Ms. Foster, that said, yes, if the numbers are low.
Right.
Like if we're not in high transition.
Right.
There was a couple that had put in the comment section that this is how I feel comfortable with it being optional. However, they really don't want to be in the ready.
Well, so I think for you to transition, give you a little bit of time to communicate this to staff, parents. and community. I think you start.
Is that, do we need to vote on that? A motion for it to be
Yeah,
effective?
Can we point that, make it effective for us, that way we know. Thank y'all for that. I'm sorry for the back and forth. This is.
That's why I asked the question.
That's a great
Yeah.
question to ask. The 28th should be a Monday. We should back that. That's next year. Yeah, the 28th will be a Monday.
All right, so the motion is due to the change in the mask. So if you want to do the motion, make this- Second. All in favor? That being said, y'all, we still have to vote every month.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Due to the,
I think the legislature must review.
due to the strong, toolkit, right?
Sorry.
Due to the toolkit.
I think that's
No,
a
that's
governor,
law.
that's a law. It's a
Yeah.
governor mandate.
They do, they put that in legislation for this school year.
All right, let's take care of the reopening update. That's called for the update.
Yes, ma'am.
BTSP.
Oh, yes, okay, so, next month you will have, we will be, sharing with you our work plan, for the things that we need to adjust and or fix, with our current beginning teacher support plan. So I will have that to you next month.
Yeah, school calendar.
Okay.
School calendar.
So in your packet, and I apologize, these are black and white, so the colors will mean nothing to you. But just take a look. You guys had already approved a 22-23 calendar. But after this year and implementing our mental health days, and changing some of the teacher work days at the beginning of the school year and things like that, we kind of made a little, like some subtle tweaks, nothing major, but I did want to share with you guys this amended calendar, just to clean up and finish with the semester at the end of December and start fresh and then build in a work day before the semester started. Those are all things that we have looked at with this new calendar that we did not have in place prior to. So these are some things that you're going to see, and I'm just kind of going back and forth looking at both of the calendars. But we did add in those, just so you guys know, we just had one of our mental health days. Mr. Baker's been collecting some of these pictures and ideas, but it was really nice to see our teachers actually be patched. I believe that we had an extra snow day on Monday, so they kind of had a mental health weekend. So, I told them not to use that. But I mean, it was time with their families, it was going out to dinner, it was traveling, it was just things that, education doesn't end at 5 o'clock. It's things that run over the weekends, and a lot of time is spent on what you're doing in your career, and a lot of times your family kind of gets the what's left of you, right? And so this has been really nice. So I want to thank you guys on behalf of them of how beneficial just the days have been that we've used so far. So we've had 3 so far. We've got 1 more, and they like look forward to it. And they've been like sending me pictures and like, you can't put this on Facebook, because they don't, they're not no makeup or anything like that on. So but it's been really nice. So what we did too with this new calendar is still staying within the required amount of hours that we have to have. Tweaking some of our work days. So, there's 8 full work days, and there's 4 half days that are designated as teacher work days. So we have plenty of those. Building in additional excess snow days. So I've almost burnt everyone we got this January. So we're real close. We're down to hours in this minute, but so we have designated some snow days as well as the mental health days, adding them into next year's calendar. So I would just like to ask that we make this amendment. Hopefully our families got some benefit out of that too. But this is the new calendar that we would just like to, like I said, amend it. So you'll see like work days. We had teachers coming back on the 13th with the old calendar of July. Well, now they're coming back on the 18th. The only slight change you will see is looks like our old start date for kids was July 26th. We backed that back 1 day till Monday, July 20th. So it's just a day difference there. And those were the major changes, just to add in some of those mental health days and move some of our teacher work days around. I will reset all this.
Questions? Calendar. Calendar.
Oh, from the original? Yes. That, right, so we changed the start date. We changed the start date for teachers from July 13th to July 18th. And then we added 4 mental health days For which one? Yes, the 21st, you see on the bottom of that sheet, but they're, well, I'm sorry. On mine, they're different shades of gray. And then I think we added in one more day, this, Jackson, in January, we normally would just off on that, the 2nd of January, the old calendar. The new one, we actually make the 2nd of January work day. Correct, the new semester.
Approve the amendment to the school calendar 2022. Oh, second. 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 All in favor? All right, that's all the old business. So, we only have two. I'll take the first one. Still trucking along pretty fast on our extension project. Still working on permits, there's a lot of permits that we're working on, so February, March is going to be called our permitting approval time period. So we received our first maintenance service permit Friday, so that's good. That was the first permit, so we're moving pretty good on the permits. We're currently working on final design of the site and the building. Last thing I want to add is that we're continuing to work with finance, working together, so we're all aligned to each other, so we won't miss any major gaps in action items. School year 2023. So that's the update. Everything's still on schedule. So I think, for the academics committees.
Yes, sir. We have just recently done our check-in two during the month of January, and we're very pleased with the results, especially in those tested grades. Did everybody receive a packet, Ms. Duration? Okay, so, okay, so I'll just kind of give you a quick overview. It looks like that there was improvement made in almost all areas. We do have a couple of areas that we're going to be concentrating on. One will be a focus on 7th and 8th grade math. There will be a math specialist who will be pulling out students so that they can have group instruction and one-on-one instruction to help fill in some of those gaps and hopefully boost those scores for the next check-in. Also, we're going to be doing a little bit of work with the 3rd graders in reading. And in that area, they will be putting some additional kids into MTSS, which again will allow for small group and one-on-one instruction. And I think that a note needs to be made that with that 3rd grade group, that when they were tested, the teacher was not there that day. And I can attest to you that when you test and the person they're used to is not there, it affects how they test. So I think that teacher needs to allow herself a lot of grace, because that just happens and you can't do anything about it. The K through 3 also have been doing some testing. The iReady, which is the thing that really helps to indicate how our K3 students are doing, they are making significant progress in almost every grade level. So if you were to take this and look at it in comparison to what it looked like this time last year, you would be doing cartwheels because the numbers are fantastic in comparison to last year. And we have got to remember that these gaps are not going to be closed in a year's time. This is going to be something that's going to take some time. It's going to be a process, and it's probably going to be a process of several years before we can get back to where we were. But we're in the same boat with everybody else in the state. So I think that we really need to applaud our teachers because they have done a great job of getting back in here, putting those boots on the ground and helping these children to make some progress. And I would be remiss if I didn't say that our science scores are back. And I know that Mr. Jimmy Kistler is a happy camper. So I think that we should be very proud of what they have done with their scores. Any questions?
Also, Ms. Jackson, I want to add that last time we met, LMPC, all right, that's all for the committee updates. Then we'll do new business. So first one is right. Framework.
This is just information to share with you. So this is not pretty hard to submit. We have certain compliance requirements that we have for DPI. Also, church school is fantastic, and they try to keep you in check, for lack of better terms, and make sure that we're doing everything we're supposed to be doing as an organization. So shout out to Ms. Simmons, who works very hard on this. We try to meet the deadlines every month. They take these and kind of check them out. It's our preliminary report back from last year. And so far, we're compliant and everything. Woo-hoo. So that's a shout out to us as a school and as an organization. And so in the years past, I say years past, they've only done it once, but they gave us this cool little, like a ribbon, like an emblem, like a seal, like a good job. And so we're hoping they're going to do that again, so we can update the one we have on our website. So if we get access to that, we can be updating our website. But just preliminary data, we are compliant in all aspects to also start schools and DPI. So just want to give you guys that update since that report was released.
Thank you. In your board packet, you will see the acknowledgement email from the HHS for Division of Public Health from Ms. Rose. We have our semi-annual well monitoring report was submitted to state and local government, local counties. And behind that is actual. So the report states that the results reported herein perform with the applicable standards. So you're good.
Excuse me, I have one question for you, Chavon. Just a point of clarification on the chain of custody document in the packet. Let's see, it's, okay. I think we need to change Ms. Snyder's name.
It has been several times, and
And
I
it's-
think it's old paper because it's paperwork.
Uh-huh,
And so I did notice that. Thank you, Ms. Thomas, for pointing that out. And I don't know what else to do to change it with them, but I will try again.
well, no, but that must be in their system.
Yes,
You
yes,
know,
ma'am. Yes,
okay.
yes, it's there.
Wonderful, I appreciate that. I just want to make sure we know.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
I will try, I think it's a paper, like a 4-part paper that they have to cut back to 2% custody.
Yeah,
So it just must be old documents.
thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. As everybody recalls, we agreed to form a single member limited liability company called Clover Garden Investments LLC to own the real estate and build it and lease it back to the school. We formed the LLC on January 19th, 2022. The operating agreement is similar to the bylaws for our corporation. It sets out how the LLC operates, including how any distributions from the LLC would flow all to our school. The LLC is managed by the school and its member and manager. The chairman of the board of directors is designated to act on behalf of the LLC, although the board of directors of the school can always designate another officer of the school to act on behalf of the LLC. So,
Anybody have any questions? Before we do, we make a motion authorizing one or more officers of the school to execute the operating agreement on behalf of the school. So, anyone make a motion? Local Investments LLC.
I'm so sorry. I am having a lot of trouble understanding or hearing you. Like, can you say that one more time?
So we need to make a motion authorizing what Ms. Simmons was talking about as far as the Clover Garden Investments LLC to execute one or more officers of the school to execute the operating agreement on behalf of the school.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Second, Mrs. Foster, all in favor? So that's been moved that the officers of the school will authorize and execute the operating agreement with Clover Garden Investments.
in your packet is our copy of our. Thank you.
That's all of new business, correct? So we will not have closed session tonight. That being said, the next meeting, next board meeting will be March 8th at 6:30. Make a motion. March 8th meeting. Lane, second. Right now, all in favor? Okay, our next board meeting is March 8th. Next item is to adjourn. 7:35. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. Foster, second. Hackney, all in favor?